we're increasingly seeing a divergence in the media where we have the traditional media in broadcast and print that's relying a lot on advertisements and in turn the agenda of the advertisers, and then we have the digital media that is either running on a subscription model or is free. Do you think somewhere down the line there's going to be a clash between these two structures of media, or do you think that they're going to find a way to complement each other in the future?
Well, I don't think they will choose to complement each other. They just have to coexist. And what is very encouraging is that the digital platform is better able to survive independently on subscription or through trusts who do fund it. The digital medium is cheaper to run than television and print, so they have a better chance of survival perhaps, and that's really encouraging. Television, print, the whole dependence on ads is a killer, and sadly it is really damaging media in India today very, very badly. This business model, somewhere something has to give. If television and print, news channels and newspapers are going to survive as independent entities who can speak the facts, if not the truth.
For someone who's been in television for so long, are you disappointed to see how television is replacing on-ground reportage with these 9 p.m. debates and these little windows where people are shouting at each other? Surely this cannot be a constructive form of journalism or sustainable in the future, right?
That's a very, very good question, and nobody really put it better to me than Ravish Kumar of NDTV India, who came to do a lecture over here in Kolkata. He joined NDTV way after me, and he said to me कि दीदी हम anchor लोग ने तो आप reporters को खत्म कर दिया. He admits it, I admit it, and it's true. I mean, that has become the model. And that there are all these debates and 16 windows on the screen and people screaming and shouting at each other, and that seems to be grabbing eyeballs at the moment, whereas I believe that television is really a reporter's medium, a reporter who will take you to the place where things are happening, make you talk to people or listen to people who are on the spot and have things to say. That's just getting lost.
But I want to move to something else. I want to move to the idea of objectivity in journalism. A lot of words get thrown around, a lot of ideas get thrown around. There's also the difference between being objective and being impartial. What has been your philosophy as a journalist? You've covered so many stories, so many conflicts. Do you see yourself as an objective journalist? Do you see yourself as an impartial one? Do you think one should be either or both or neither?
Definitely. I mean, I'm old-fashioned enough to say that I swear by being objective. Impartial is a little hard. We all have our sentiments and points of view, but as a journalist, you're not supposed to flout them. You're not supposed to put them out. And I was talking to some journalism students the other day, and I was telling them how I got pulled up by my office when during, the hanging of Dhananjay, you were probably too young to remember, but you do remember that we had a hanging in Kolkata in 2006, 7 or around thereabouts, and Dhananjay was being hanged, and I am an anti death sentence person, and somewhere along the way I said publicly during one of the lives that the bloodthirsty mindset is hang him. And people pulled me up for that. My office pulled me up, saying that, you might believe so, but you can't say it because there are thousands who don't agree with you. So these are lessons that, I took to heart. That's disappearing today. Now everybody is giving their points of view. In fact, that's also something perhaps the consumers seem to want.
Another trend we are seeing in journalism is the emergence of microjournalism. So there are much more local stories, much more local platforms, which is great for bringing up stories that otherwise would not have gotten coverage. But do you think somewhere paradoxically it also makes the center less accountable, because then the responsibility of journalists and the responsibility of journalism gets fragmented, gets distributed? Stories that would have perhaps made it to the national media don't, and we know the center doesn't really pay much attention to the regional media. So how would you contextualize the emergence of this microjournalism, regional journalism, vis-a-vis journalistic accountability to the central government?
I'd like to believe that microjournalism is the journalism of the future. Vernacular journalism is the journalism of the future, but I'm not sure, because it's also very important to have visibility at the center, at where the decision makers are watching. Unless you have that exposure, doing a story at a micro level is just not going to make a difference.
Question is, nowadays with the emergence of social media, a lot of journalists basically have two simultaneous platforms, one their channel or their newspaper or whatever, and the other one being social media. And often we've seen that they are being held accountable for whatever they air on social media, and accordingly there are ramifications, let's say, in the other aspect. Do you think that that's a good way to go about it? Should journalists maintain a singular profile across all these platforms, or should they have the space to say whatever they say on social media, and that should not be tied back to their institutional identity?
I think realistically that's impossible, especially if you have a blue tick and it says with NDTV or with the Telegraph or whatever it is. It's a bit difficult to have your individual point of view thrown about without the company being responsible for it. Most companies now have policies in place that you cannot say certain things, or sometimes you have to clear controversial tweets with them or controversial posts. That's the price one has to pay. Maybe the solution is have two. One is the official one and one is your own personal. Even I worry about it sometimes, that if I'm saying this in my personal capacity, how is it going to affect the company I work for?